Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Mornings with Mother, where authenticity lives and thrives to create a space of growth, healing, and joy. I am your host, Andrea Lawful Sanders, and each day we will cover the topics that are informative and engaging while learning from each other. Good morning to each and every one of you. It is Thursday, June 5th, 2025. The year is just sailing along. And I'm so grateful to all of you that live locally to the Philadelphia area. Whenever there's something going on, it's so funny. Mr. Man Frisbee worked with WHYY to curate a space and an event where they showed a documentary called We Want the Funk. And we were sitting in the audience just having ourselves a good old time and talking about how funk music came about. We saw George Clinton, we saw Bootsy, we saw Good Morning Bobby Carr, we saw all the people, right? And by the end of the documentary, I was itching to dance. Now, at that point, it was about 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I am usually in bed at that point. But I stopped Mr. Man Frisbee and I said, listen, you better bring the funk because I want to move my feet. He said, I got you, Andrea. And we went out onto the terrace of the parkway of the Free Library. And my God, on today, it was such a beautiful sunset. We were all out there just talking to one another. Folks were stopping me going, well, if you here, then we're supposed to be here because you are usually in bed. Everybody knows I'm sleeping at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. And we let our hair down and had a good old time. You know, my friend Elaine wrote on my social media post, she said, joy is a form of resistance. Dancing, music is a form of resistance. And I saw it in full color yesterday. We danced and laughed and hugged. The breeze was blowing on us and we had an amazing time. So I must thank WHYY and Mr. Man Frisbee because when he put that band out there and they started playing, I literally said, this is officially the beginning of my summer. In the midst of all the turmoil, all the craziness, my phone was ringing, about things that were going on in real time. And I couldn't really talk. And last night I got home and I was like, wait, what is going on? And so I have said this before, and I'm going to say it again. Two things. God does not need our help in creating a space of reparations. I've seen it happen over and again. God just does not need our help. When we feel people have wronged us, you don't need to get up on your high horse and start fussing and cussing and carrying on, because the way God works, he will fix it so that everything works, and it may not happen in your time. That's the first thing. The second thing I'm going to say, and I've said this over and over again, look behind me. In a world where you can be anything, be kind. All the money in the world will not save you if you're unkind, if you treat people like dirt. You name the things that are going on out here. And so all yesterday, my phone just kept ringing. And someone said to me, I actually texted one of my team members, and I said, someone just called me and said that they're afraid. People think that I'm a jinx because when they do horrible things to me, horrible things happen to them. And they felt like I was jinxing a place that wasn't good. And I was like, so I reached out to one of my teammates. She said, that is not your concern, Andrea. You literally have been really good to people. You've treated people well. That's not your concern. Dust your feet off and move on, right? But this has been my entire life. If you listen to the show on Monday with David Alexander Jenkins, one of the things we talked about, and I don't know, because I don't look like I am moving here, so I don't even know what that is. One of the things that David Alexander Jenkins and I talked about was when, the people have a saying, they say, God don't play about me. God don't play, right? And so we must be thoughtful in the way we treat people, right? It's just, and I've said it over and again. Now, there's a woman that was in my Facebook inbox and on my page who kept saying that she was harmed by an organization that I get a sponsorship from. And I was like, ma'am. And then she reached out and said she needs me to reach out to Kenyatta Johnson. I said, listen, I am a media personality. I am not someone who's an advocate in the natural sense. But I reached out and left, and I didn't reach out to Kenyatta Johnson, but I reached out to another person. I was like, listen, do you know who this person is? Because this has been going on for 17, 18 years. I sensed there was some other things going on there. But then she said, I need you to put a fundraiser for me. Use your name to put a fundraiser for me. When you're in the public eye, I have never met this woman before. I cannot just get up and do a fundraiser for someone. If for the grace of God something happens, then my name is attached to that. And I don't think she understood that. And then she was like, I'm sending you my cash app. I need you to send me money. See, that's a red flag for me. And so finally last night, and this has been going on for a while, because, I work really hard. I don't work hard to be kind to people. I'm kind to people. Finally last night, she said something on one of my pages. I guess I'm not important enough, huh? And I was like, yeah, I can't. We can do the best that we can for as many people as we can, but you cannot start expecting, because I am one person and I do the best that I can in the midst of all the things that are going on. The other thing that I noticed yesterday was I went to the gym. And of course, you'll hear me talk about things, but you won't see me putting up pictures and that kind of stuff, because it's not right. And we should give people their dignity. So I went to the gym, and there's a woman standing on the side where the gym was. And by the time I got inside the gym, she was out on the other side, and she was sitting on the ground, and she was so close to the street. I said to Audra, oh my God. And Audra said, I know who she is. I think she has some mental challenges. Da, 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 da. She got a piece of tissue and started wiping the debris out of the street while the cars were zooming by. And next time I looked up, she had gotten on the bus. Audra thought she was waiting for the bus. And then last night at the Free Library on Vine Street, I went to go sit on a bench, and there was someone laying there fast asleep with their buttocks up in the air. And I started to pray. Mental health is a severe thing for so many of us, and we don't have the conversations in the way that we should. We ridicule and we make horrible comments about people. Not a good thing to do. You just never, ever know what people are going through. And so, in the time and space that we're in, we're in a bad place. Let me see what's going on here. Morning, Alexandra, Beatrice, Marguerite, Rosalind, Tiffany. Oh my God. Marguerite said it was a party with a purpose. Yep. Because he was also supporting his Achievers Brunch. So while this was free for us, many of us who had come to this thing had been supporting the Achievers Brunch. And I met some of the gentlemen from the Achievers Brunch last night. Two of them. One is in a private school now, going off to college, working on his LSAT, about to take his LSAT. The other one is at Penn State main campus. They're Black boys turning into Black men who had achieved well in their school district, wherever they've been going to school. And Mr. Man Frisbee curates and has been doing that for quite a while. So I got to meet so many, just talk to them. And I said, well, we support every year. We will continue to support. Mr. Man Frisbee really works hard to highlight and show the goodness in this city, not just the craziness, right? So we were proud. We were just proud to support him. Good morning, Tammy. Monica said, you party animal. I would have still been in the bed if I were you. You were all jamming. We were, and I was exhausted. I was absolutely exhausted, but I knew I was paying for this, not a problem. So this was good. Hi, Charmaine, Tazenia, Tiffany. Oh, yes. Good morning, Shaquilla. Laura, good morning. Yeah, Tiffany, I sense that there was some mental health stuff there, right? She was fussing about this organization and what they had done. And I said to her, this was 18, 20 years ago when Shaka Fatah was still in office. What do you want me to do with that now? The person you're fussing and complaining about wasn't even in office when all of this stuff happened. And I tried to answer the questions as I knew. Yeah. Monica says, wait, what the hell, Andrea? No need to give this any more air. That woman has issues that have nothing to do with you. Pray and move on. And that's what I had to do, because I'm always trying to save everybody, and I cannot save everybody. And I have to be very mindful, right? So there was that. So I had to let her go. I had to block her because I could not. Because I could sense that she was ramping up, and I was like, yeah, no. Morning too. So we have this morning a widow that's going to join us, along with Sharif Syfax. It is Love Is. It's the Love Is segment. We're doing Love Is today. And I'm just so excited about where this show, this broadcast is going and has gone. I'm excited about season 3. I'm telling you, Tuesday, for those of you who are paid subscribers, that will hit your inbox on Monday. I want you to listen and tell me. And then for everybody else, at midnight on Monday, everybody else will get the episode, what would be officially considered season 1 of episode 3. My 6-minute prelude to the podcast, every season I am the first one on to talk to you all about what was happening the season before, how we're growing into this next season. And when I tell you I am excited because everything that I said I wanted to do on behalf of folks is what we are doing. Our team is thoughtful and curate what we need to have to get things done. We treat people well. We do. I'm telling you all, I don't care how much money you have. My mother said this and she was absolutely correct. It doesn't matter how many degrees or how much money in the world you have. If you do not treat people well, good manners and treating people well will take you where all the money and the degrees will not. I have lived it. I have seen it. And my dearly departed mother, I am so grateful that she showed that to my sisters and I, because it is the way we live today. And it's the way we treat people. Good morning, Jana and Winetta and Debbie Womack and Bobby Carr. Good morning to all of you. It is that, the way I treat people, the way we treat people, is what opens the door. Not the name brand, not the, oh my God, don't you know who I am? Not any of that. Always walk with humility when you are in spaces with people, whether they have more power than you, more education than you. Y'all are going to see, you will see, right? And so I've shared many instances with all of you of how doors can open when you treat people well, when you just treat people well. And so we don't have to, good morning, Melissa, we don't have to force people, just be your natural, authentic self. And which is why we talk about all the time about doing your work. When we get into this loving segment, we talk about, if you want to attract the kind of love, because we attract to us who we are. When we start fussing and complaining about our spouses, well, that's who you are. They naturally, without you having to say anything, you attract to you who you are. If you have not done the work, guess what you're attracting? Let's discuss. If you are not doing the work, guess exactly what you're attracting. So I'm excited about, what's getting ready to happen in the next few minutes. Cherie will sign in, and so will my guest, okay? Jasenia says, you can't help everyone. Laura says, yes, she's trying to guilt trip you. The guilt trip thing with you. You did the right thing. Good morning, Jean. Oh, good morning to all of you. Monica says, thank you for mama, love and wisdom. Amen. I'm telling you, my mother would always say that. She said, I don't care how many degrees you get. I don't care how far and high you rise in this life. Always treat people well, because kindness will get you where nothing else will. And she was right. She was absolutely correct. Marguerite! Oh, they're going to be so happy to say, are you awake? I'm barely awake, child. How are you, my darling?
I am absolutely wonderful, and I so thank you for having me on today.
You are so welcome. So let me, and there's Cherie. So she's coming in. Let me pull her in 1 second. I got to pull up because you sent it to me and I have to find it. There you go. Marguerite Boyd Faison is an administrator by skill and a massage therapist by trade that currently resides in the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and sisterly affection. A veteran of the United States Armed Forces, is she and the mother of an adult son on the autism spectrum. Marguerite became suddenly single when her 57-year-old chronically ill husband, with whom she was married 25 years, transitioned from life to death on Mother's Day 2022. Wow. I do remember you calling me and telling me he had transitioned. Yes. Wait, I thought I let her in. I'm trying to. Cherie, come back again for me, please. I think I didn't let you in because I don't see you here. Marguerite is grieving quite gracefully and doing her inner work to prepare herself for life's next chapter of love and companionship. Yet her willingness to share the ebbs and flows of marriage, caregiving, and her widowhood journey has opened the doors to conversations that many avoid. May the words of her mouth and the meditations of her heart bless your hearing, satisfy your curiosity, answer your burning questions, and empower you to be more, have more, and do more more in life, appreciating joy in liberty and your pursuit of happiness. Baby, that was delicious. I enjoyed reading that. Let Cherie. Somehow I didn't let her in. Try again, please. I don't see her at all. Do you see her?
I don't see her.
Hold on, hold on. So good morning, my darling.
Good morning.
Oh, they're on here though. Woo! Jasenia says you two were tearing up the rooftop last night.
Shh, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody.
Marguerite. Oh, I had a time. Ron says, "Hey, Marguerite." Laura says, "Hey, Marguerite." Hand pinky waving, waiting for the wisdom you will impart. Uh, oh, Andrea Robin Manning says, "Marguerite, what a joy it is to see
Thank
your face
you.
today."
Thank you.
Oh, that was so good. All right, I'm trying to. Okay, I hit letter in. What is going on? Do you see her? So I
I don't
did.
see her.
We still don't see you. That is so weird.
Well, it says you and one other, but I don't
It's
see
just me
her.
and you.
Yeah, it's just me and you.
That is so weird.
Do you want me to have log back in, have her log in, and then?
No, 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 because I can
Okay.
take us. You saw me do it last week. I can take 6, 7 of you at one time. So I'm not
Awesome.
sure. I'm not sure what's going on here. No, because she's not here.
No.
I let her in and she's not here. All right. While we wait for her to come on in, because I keep accepting her and she keeps disappearing. So I'm not sure what's happening there. Marguerite, let's get into it. We're going to talk about widowhood. We're going to talk about marriage with someone who has
Yes.
been chronically ill. Let's start there.
Yes.
And then we're going to go into widowhood and what that has meant for you, you personally on your journey. Um, where do we go from there? And then Cherie will join us. So welcome to the show, my sister. Um, you reminded me recently how we met. It
Yeah.
was at the Mr. Man's thing again. It was the movie when Black Panther was coming out,
Mhm.
right? And I remember you're walking up to me to introduce yourself, and we took a picture.
Yes.
And then you wrote a post because Lord knows my brain doesn't always compute because this menopause. Then you wrote a post saying that you don't hang out with a lot of people, but you had been, I forget what you had said. Do you remember that?
I said, well, before I go further, I just want to thank you for the opportunity of having me on today. And I want to give it back to you because you are absolutely incredible. You are a
Mhm.
shining star in the morning. Most of us kick off our mornings with you,
Mhm.
and we take what we hear, what you say, and what your guests reveal, help us carry on the rest of our day. So I want to celebrate you. If I never get an opportunity to be on here again,
Oh.
I just want to celebrate you for taking the charge, listening to God, and doing what is your God given purpose, and that is to be the light in a world of darkness. So, thank you so much for having me on today. But yes, I posted at that time. I was really in the crux of being a caregiver to my chronically ill husband. I love him very much, but being a caregiver was difficult. So, hanging out, having a lot of people around, doing a lot of conversation was not me. From the time I woke up in the morning to the time I laid my head down at night, I was doing everything caregiving for my husband.
Yeah. Give us some examples of what you had to do. I knew because you had come to my house for something and I brought you into my Zen space.
Yes.
And I think I fed you. I think I gave you soup or something. Now let me tell you, you were the only one that had been in that Zen space at that. You hear what? And I told her, I said, listen, this ain't for everybody. But I felt that you needed it in that moment without you having to say much of anything. Describe to people what it is like to live with a chronically ill spouse.
I definitely will. I came to your house because you were making black cakes at that time.
Ah,
And my husband, I wanted him to try something different. And so I came to get a black cake from you.
yes.
And I think I was just overwhelmed
Mm.
at that point. And it took a lot because oftentimes when we're caregivers, we don't admit that we're overwhelmed and we think that we could do all things. And so coming to your Zen space, you had me take off my shoes, you let me sit, you let me relax, you just poured into me. Being a caregiver of someone that's chronically ill, um, although my husband had diabetes, and we talk about that often on your show, my husband had diabetes when I met him, but he was navigating it fairly well for the first probably 10, 15 years of our marriage. But then as time went on, he started deteriorating. And in 2016, while at an event out at the Masonic Hall on Broad Street, he had a metabolic seizure. So that started a cycle of illnesses and surgeries and hospitalizations that lasted consistently for the next 6 years. So you asked me what my day was like. I would get up at that point while he was still living. I was getting up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning just so that I could have some me time before I got him up. During the last maybe 6 months of his life, I would get up in the morning, I would make his breakfast. He had an ulcer in his foot because not only was he diabetic, he also had gotten or diagnosed with end stage renal disease in 2016. So I got his breakfast. Because of the hole in his foot, I had to take him to the hyperbaric chamber over at Lankenau every single day, where he would spend 3 hours in the hyperbaric chamber. Because my husband was 6'3", he was about 280 pounds at that time. Walking was very hard for him. So when I was not holding him up, he would have the cane on one side, me on the other. He rode around in a motorized wheelchair. And I had to get that because pushing him in a wheelchair was so hard for me because in 2019, I broke my wrist. And so when we would go to the hospital, anyone that knows me know I'm very bottom heavy. So I would be pushing the wheelchair with my hips down the
Mhm.
hallway
Mhm.
to get him where he needed to go. So we would spend pretty much all day together. I would do things for him. His eyesight was so, hello, morning, Siri. His eyesight was so bad.
Good
He had no sight in one eye and only 40% sight in the other eye. So I did all the driving, I did all the cooking, I did everything. But let me tell you this, I share with people all the time. I did not complain because I believe that that was my assignment. And also, I have a son who is an adult, amazing on the autism spectrum. But what I said is this: even if I feel the way I feel about being a wife, that is the father of my son. And I was not going to allow my son to stop his life to have to take care of his father. So if I had to take care of his father until he closed his eyes, that is
morning.
what I was committed to do.
He closed his eyes at 57. I want you to talk a little bit about so you described a day in the life of being with your husband who was chronically ill. What was that doing to your emotional and physical health in that moment? As someone who was taking care of of an ill spouse.
Well, I wasn't caring about me. I was doing everything for him,
Mhm.
from brushing his teeth sometime to giving him baths to after he would go to the bathroom, uh, wiping his backside and washing his backside. As he got later towards passing away, he used to fall a lot. So I would be maybe in the bathroom at 2 o'clock in the morning, hear something that sounded like a crash, and he would be on the floor. There was one time I
At
was
280
on.
pounds, how did you get him up?
Well, what I did was I would kind of push him with my body, and he would end up kind of rolling and pushing himself up on the bed. One of those times I was on a broadcast like this, and I heard a thump. He had fallen by the door of our bedroom, and I literally had to keep on pushing the door, keep on pushing the door until I could slide my way in, and then got him over to the bed and lifted him up. So my health, as you were asking, my health was poor. And for those of you who don't know from listening to Mornings with Mother, I have diabetes. I am dealing with diabetes, and I got diagnosed during that time. But how was I going to handle me when
Right.
I was handling him? And so I had to look at him. You know, I have a bad habit of compartmentalizing. So I looked at him as, I was his decision maker, I
Mm-hmm.
was his caregiver, and I tried to separate myself from being his wife. It
Mm-hmm.
was, I love you as my friend, but being your wife, it was very difficult because, you know, people always talk about the loving and the intimacy and all of that.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
one, it in 25 years, my husband and I were only s- sexually intimate with penetration 15 times in 25 years.
So let's talk about
15
in
times.
sickness and in health. Cherie, I see your face. Just hold on. Let's discuss in sickness and in health, because oftentimes I want to get married. I want a husband. I want a this. I want a that. And then when this part comes along that you're discussing, it then becomes a different story, because oftentimes we just want to do I want to have the sexual intercourse. I want to be on your arms so we can go on vacation. I want to do all those things. But the truth of the matter is, when you're in a marriage, anything can happen. I've gotten sick. My husband's been very sick. We publicly talk about him having prostate cancer, so you already know, all the things that we have to go through, and I have to encourage him as my spouse. I love him dearly, and it's a constant, I always check in. Are you all right? What can I do for you? What can I get for you? Da 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 da. It should be. Let's talk a little bit. Welcome back, my darling. But,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. Let me say this. Good morning, everyone.
Good one.
Andrea is sending me a message talking about we're going to talk to a widow. I'm like, that's Marguerite. Like,
Oh, hush your fuss.
I wonder who this is.
That was so late last night, child. I was like, oh God, help me, Jesus. I was so tired. But let's you heard Margaret.
Like, how you gonna help her?
Tell Tracy, hold on.
If I knew it was with Marguerite, I'm like, we're gonna have a conversation like women. That's why I know
Yes,
that.
yes.
Right,
but
right.
you know I'm never going to set you up that way. So whoever's coming on, we're having a conversation, and there's always something applicable. Now, you and I have had this conversation over and over and over again, Cherie, about being in marriages and what is required. And have you ever met anyone or heard anyone talk about in this detail what they've had to do for a chronically ill spouse?
I haven't heard anyone speak to this level, but I've had experiences where I've observed. So I've had people in my life where, in this particular case that I'm thinking about, the wife had cancer for a very long time, and her husband was her caregiver, and I used to cook him food, and so we used to talk in general. Men, I don't think, share as much,
Right.
and the relationship dynamic was a little bit different. So, but he definitely was challenged by being her caregiver for, I'd have to say, 10 years, maybe, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, and sometimes, and I know this probably sounds terrible, but I'm not even gonna say it, but we'll talk about it
No,
offline.
say it. What sometimes, because listen,
Yeah,
I
I wonder when that is the case. I'm not gonna say it. We will have a conversation about it offline.
Okay. I have family members who were taking care of chronically ill spouses, and I remember one saying, "God help me. Some days I wish he would just die."
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
She said, because
Yes.
I am just, it was too much. And in her case, it was 20 something years of just taking care of a chronically ill, back and forth to the hospital, all the diabetic too, all these things going on. And there was a time as he was passing away, I called her one day to check in on her. And she said, I feel like there were days when I was abusive because I was so tired, and she just started to cry, right?
Mm.
So we need to have this discussion. You know, if it like Dr. Taylor said to me yesterday, we gonna go there or we gonna go there. And this
Well,
is me you're talking to, right?
well,
So
Andrea, when the vows say "till death do you part," I've
mhm,
said to myself, then go ahead and die already. Because
yeah,
I'm being very transparent.
yeah,
I was so tired. And as you
yeah.
know, I have a 26-year-old adult son on
Mhm.
the autism spectrum. And again, he is amazing. He is quite independent. However, taking care of a chronically ill husband, a child on the spectrum. My mother had dementia at that time. My father in
Mm.
law, while he had three children, I used to say three and a possible because I did everything for him. I would go to his house, I would take him to doctor's appointments. So I had, including me, five people that I had to be in
Responsible.
charge of caring for at that particular
Mm.
time. Five people.
Marguerite. So, and I think you had to bury all of them at some point except
Well,
one, right?
Well, as I said previously, I broke my wrist July 16th, 2019. That was the start of a 24-month period of death. My wrist was broken in 2019. My mother passed away June of 2020. In between that, I lost two aunts, I lost two line sisters, and I lost my husband all in a 24-month period. And three of them I had to actually plan the funeral and participate in the funerals for.
We talk. I'm asking you all these questions, and Sherry, chime in when you have a minute. But we talk about this. I want to get married. I want to get married. I need to have the husband. I need to have the this. I need to have the that. This is a real conversation about what life looks like outside of the public eye when things just, when things happen, when a spouse gets ill. How do we navigate through that when we get ill? So we have to
Mhm.
really be thoughtful about, oh, am I trying to get married because I want this, and this? Or am I really marrying someone that I love and cherish and care about to the point where when they get sick, I am going to be there? Because it's not an if, right?
Mhm.
As we age, things happen. What would you like to add to that, Sheree?
No, I mean, it's so funny. Tracy and I just literally had that conversation, not
Wow.
specifically to aging, but just health and our wealth of health and our welfare.
Mhm.
And we were talking because when we were over in Senegal, so first of all, it took us a couple of days to get acclimated just with the time and the jet lag and all that stuff. And then he had something happened. He wasn't feeling that well, and then I actually fainted while I was over there.
Mm.
Got overly hot, hadn't eaten, hadn't had something to drink, and was just out and about. And so we were just kind of laughing how, not laughing, but how those 10 days together, you're like, oh, we're going to be on vacation, and it's going to be like intimacy and all this other stuff. And we're like, nothing happens. And it's just because these circumstances come
Yeah.
up where you think, you're going to have this experience. But then reality sets in of, we're older and jet lag and
Yeah.
whatever the things that impact you. And you can go periods of time and not have that physical intimacy. And Andrea, we've talked about this before on the show about making sure that you are intimate, even if it's not completely physical, because
Right.
you still have to keep those connections because
Yes.
you're not going to always be able to be like you were when you were 20,
Yeah.
30, when you first were dating. I mean,
Child.
those dynamics shift, they change,
Yes.
business, you buy a business and now you're working there 24/7, and that
Yeah.
kind of replaces a little bit of that time. And so, the conversation we had again is back to making sure that you prioritize those intimate moments. And
Yeah.
again, it doesn't have to be physical intimacy, it has to be the type of intimacy that connects your souls together.
Yes.
Mhm.
I would
Yeah.
assume, Marguerite, that was the intimacy that allowed you to endure
Hmm.
for those
It was the
years.
intimacy that allowed me to endure, and it was the friendship. And one of the things
Yeah.
we were talking about yesterday when the doctor was on, and he was sharing so much of my story. And I was saying that we had gone to a sex therapist because initially, let me say this, and I probably did not mention it initially. I didn't, because he managed his diabetes so well when we got
Mhm.
married. Initially, I didn't realize it was the diabetes that was causing his
The
body to
erectile dysfunction,
deteriorate.
yes.
I thought it was me. I
Mm.
thought that mentally, I said, I'm not good enough. I'm not doing enough. Something is wrong with me. He doesn't want my body. So we went to a sex therapist. And when I tell you, we went for 2 years, that was the most demeaning, the worst, the most horrible experience of my life. I went to a white female. She
Mm.
basically told us that my husband was suffering from performance anxiety, and I was the source of his problem because I was being too hard on him versus being understanding about what he was going through. And my husband, while everybody calls him a gentle giant, and he can be fun loving, but really sharing his pain and what's going on, it was always, I'm okay. I'm all right. There's nothing wrong with me. And so it it was just the intimacy was very hard because he felt, if I can't do one thing, I'm not going to try to do anything.
Anything else, right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. And
Phew.
I would assume, and I think you've alluded to this before too, Marguerite, like then that's where you have to be creative and that's where you have to trust each other. And to your point, have that kind of baseline friendship
Mhm.
to try new and different things that may not be what everyone else would consider the norm. And you
Right.
have to find your lane with each other to, to satisfy each other's needs in a constraint and challenging environment.
Lord, I applaud your courage and your honesty because the comments over here, you're helping a lot of people. You're
Praise
helping a
God.
lot of people that have been struggling in silence that have just not felt that they had a space to discuss. I really want to get to the part of your rediscovering yourself. Um, what did that look like for you? How long, because grieving is a thing that's intermittent, right? You can grieve and then you feel okay and then you're grieving again. Are you at the place where you're now open to having a relationship again?
I am at the place that I'm open to having a relationship again. And let me tell you, and many won't understand this, so I'm going to say it exactly the way that I felt it. The day that my husband closed his eyes, we had been talking throughout the night before. He was in a rehab facility out in Lansdale. And that day, he passed away on a Sunday. That Saturday, when I got up, my body was in total shutdown. I sat in my living room chair all day, only moved to go to the bathroom. I could not get myself together to go out and visit him. So we were on the phone all day long, texting back and forth, everything. He was like, I don't want to be here. I don't like it here. I hate being in this facility. They're not feeding me well, all this kind of thing. And I just couldn't bring myself to go out there. During the court, later on in the evening, he told me he was having trouble breathing. They told me they were going to take him to the hospital. Most of the time, I would have jumped up, got in the car, and gone, but I just could not do it.
Mm.
In the middle of the night, I reached out to a young lady that I had met on social media, and she had a husband, and she had always chronicled her journey about her husband. I reached out to her. She lives in California. I reached out to her like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I was just like, when do you know that it's over? And how do you handle it? This was at 2 o'clock in the morning. She shared some things with me. I text my husband at about 6 because I was taking my son to work. I
Mhm.
texted him about 6 o'clock in the morning. I was like, are you still there? Are they transferring you to, because they would have transferred him from this little hospital to Lankenau. I said, you're still there? He was like, they haven't transferred me yet. But
Mhm.
his text was so, it was garbled at first.
Mhm.
And I couldn't understand it. And normally I would pick up the phone and call, but I didn't. I was driving down the expressway. For those of you that are not in Philly, the Schuylkill Expressway, I called and I called his phone. He didn't answer. I called the nurse's station and I said, again, I'm driving. I said, I'm trying to get a hold of my husband. He's not answering. I'm just checking in with you all. The nurse said, hold on. When the doctor got on the line, he said, I just called him. I just declared him dead. They said this right on the
Like
phone
while
as
you're
I'm
driving on the
driving.
phone.
Yes, as I'm driving, that's what they said. I just pronounced him. That was the word. I just pronounced him. Now, of course, I'm sure they weren't supposed to do that, but it caught him off guard. I was calling. He was like, I just pronounced him. So I had to drive from South Street exit all the way out to Montgomeryville,
Yeah.
processing in my head that I no longer had a husband. And then it's Mother's Day. I just took my son to work. I've got to go out there because, again, my friendship circle I really didn't have. So I drove all the way
Right.
out. I
Right.
walked in the room. They still had all the tubes hanging out of him. His glasses were at the bottom of the bed. I went over, I gave him a kiss. I picked up his glasses. I asked him, I'm like, well, where's his phone? They were like, we don't know. I started calling the phone, found the phone, and I walked out of that rehab. But in all of that, I said, and I posted it later after I told my son, my husband is finally healed. He may not have been healed on this side of Zion, but
Mhm.
he's finally healed. And I was celebrating that. But in with me, I was celebrating that I was now free to be me. Because I couldn't be me when I was being him. I was keeping him alive. So I couldn't be free being me. So that is why, people look at me, they're like, you just living your best life. I absolutely
Yes.
am. I'm grieving gracefully. I'm suddenly single.
Yeah.
Like I said, Mother's Day 2022, it has now been 3 years.
Yes.
I am now thinking and contemplating and looking at who I am becoming because I'm not a completed work, but I am becoming a woman who is able to go out, ask for what she wants, and not tolerate
Yeah.
any less than. Now,
Yeah.
the other day when you all were talking with, and David had mentioned that sometimes people get a side of us that is kind of defensive.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about that thing and I was like, some of the things that I have on my list that would be nice to have in a relationship, because I'm not out there looking for
Mm-hmm.
anything, because
I
the
think
book
he
that
will
I
find
read,
you.
the
I
book
think
that
he
I
will
read
find you.
says
Mm-hmm.
that he will find his good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I am making myself available
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
to be able to be what it is that would be able to thrive in what I call my second chapter.
Mm.
But that I'm working on me. I'm going out, I'm reading, I'm listening, I'm uh, opening my ears and less of my mouth. And I'm building relationships with people because as an only child, building relationship was always a challenge because I would be very insular. And if I didn't like what was being said or being done, I would shut myself down. So
You
again,
identify, Cherie?
Yeah.
my husband and I
Yeah.
were together for
Living on
28
top.
years. Even though we were married
Yeah.
for 25, we were together for 28, and that was the bulk of my life.
Okay.
So I am open, but I also know that I have to continue to work on me. It's because at being the best for me, I can be great for whoever God chooses to place into my life.
I have a
Mm-hmm.
question, and then Cherie, I'll let you jump in. Let's say you find someone that you absolutely love and you learn that they're ill in some way at our age. Would you do it again?
Let me tell you this. I honestly, I don't want to be a nurse and I don't want to be a purse. I don't want to take right now at this moment. I don't want to take care of anyone who is chronically ill, and I don't want to take care of anyone who's financially ill. Been there, done that.
Done that.
However, I was talking to a girlfriend of mine. She's an evangelist. I was talking to a girlfriend of mine, and I was sharing just that. And she said, if the right man loves you the way that you want to be loved, you may reconsider your position. So what I don't want is in the dating process or in the building the relationship. Well, come, let's go to the doctor. Can you go with me? Or let's talk about all of these things that are going on. At the first sign of sin that you're not taking care of yourself and doing
There
what you're
you
supposed
go.
to do. Yeah, I'm gonna have to step back and exit
Yeah.
stage left because I'm really not looking right now.
Yeah.
Now I know we all have our challenges. Like I
Yeah.
said, I am diabetic. However, I am managing in a way through the what I eat, my exercise, my hydration, my
Mm-hmm.
sleep,
Mm-hmm.
all of that. I am working on it. If you're working on yours and I'm working on mine, and I don't have to live every moment through him,
Mm-hmm.
we can do that. But if you're not taking care of yourself, you're in and out of the hospital every other week, and you just show signs of your body deteriorating.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to have to go through that experience
Yeah.
again.
Again.
That was so arduous and
Yeah.
so challenging. I always use the word caregiver, but I was actually a caretaker because it took a whole lot
Yeah.
from
Mm-hmm.
me. And it
Mm-hmm.
really changed my perspective of being married because everybody looks at it's
Wedding day.
yeah, the wedding day, the health and the
Mhm.
richer, and
The poor.
as
Yep.
long as we both shall live.
Mhm.
I got
Yes.
the other side.
Yeah. The
I got the
sickness
other
and the
side of
poor. Yes.
the sickness and the poorer. I got the other side of midnight.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
again, I loved my husband tremendously and miss him every single day. And what
Mhm.
really surprised me, I have grieved him more than I expected
That's
because
good
I
too.
figured after I completed my assignment, it was done. I was going to move. I was going to be, happy go lucky, smiling, all that kind of stuff. When I tell you grief has kicked me in the proverbial
Mhm.
backside,
Yeah.
there are times when I could be just in the car driving down the street and breaking into tears, or
Yeah.
hear a song, or go to a restaurant, or just something. Every time I pass the dialysis center that he went to,
Wow.
I get misty. And I pass that at least twice a day, every day. So it has been one of those process
Yeah.
that I would never wish on anyone, but people don't talk about grieving with regard to widowhood. You
Yeah.
don't hear, especially young people. Older people, maybe. But young people don't talk about widowhood because a lot of people, when the husband starts getting sick, they're out of there.
Yes.
They're like,
Yes.
oh, I'm
Yes.
getting a
Yes.
divorce, especially
Yes.
with the sexual part.
Yes.
15
Yes.
times in 25 years. Oh, they would have been gone.
So, Marguerite, during that time,
Yes, ma'am.
did you experiment? And I don't want to get too far into your business, but did you experiment with other things? Did you, um, because I would just be curious how you um satisfied yourself or made sure that you were getting satisfied in that area since your husband wasn't able to do that.
Yes.
Yes, I had I experienced other things. Have a great day, sir. I experienced other things during that time. One of the things that I will say is before he got into the point of I'm just not going to do anything, because a lot of it was mental for him and he felt bad. He would actually buy toys for me.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Oh.
he would buy toys, he would buy books, he would do all of that. But I would look at those things and I would just be like, I would get more irritated, more bitter, more
Mm,
upset because I'm like, I got to resort to doing this
Yeah,
got it.
because
when
he
I
could be
can't.
touching you. He
Right.
could be, intimate in other ways.
Yeah.
I find the best intimacy that I have in my marriage is us just sitting and talking to each other. There's something so like, yes, honey, let's discuss.
And
If
we
you
had
wanted to
great
move that today, you can
conversation.
get it. Yes.
We had great conversation, but it always, well, at least for the first, probably the last 2 3 years, we had the best time because we would go out, we would have fun. We did a lot of going out to eat, which mean my poundage went like that.
Yeah. Mhm.
But when we got to a point where it wasn't a focus for both of us, because I got to a point where I was like, okay, this is not gonna never happen again. So let me move on. We did the talking, we would kiss, we would hug, but it wasn't an orgasmic intimacy. And I know that you can have an orgasm without penetration,
Mm-hmm.
but we just decided to shut that door of our life.
We or,
What?
or
Yes.
go ahead, Siri. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Siri.
No, go ahead. I want to hear.
He had already shut the door. I decided to shut it,
Right
my
on.
side of the door, because I couldn't get anything from him because against the performance anxiety, which I thought was a made up diagnosis. And I told him such. But the performance anxiety just would not, whenever we would go to talk about, having intimacy and being really loving, he would just shut down.
And
And
so
so,
there
go
was
ahead.
never for you, did you did you feel like you didn't have permission for like self-pleasure or anything like that?
Or were you just so overwhelmed from all the other ish you had to do in the caretaking part that you just let it go?
Both. Let me answer Cherie. The challenge with the self pleasure in the beginning, as you know, the colloquialism and the word saved, sanctified, and being Holy Ghost filled, and we're always taught if you pleasure yourself, it's a sin, blah blah blah, this, that, and the other.
Mhm.
I was newly born again in 1995, right around the time when I met him. We
Gotcha.
didn't have sex before marriage because for me being newly born again, no, 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 we shouldn't fornicate, blah, 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 blah.
Mhm.
So in my mind, if I pleasured myself, that would be against God. Um, I
Mm.
had a, I was very to kind of get my mind and my juices flowing. I became, and I've never shared this publicly before, so I'm sharing it with you now. I became addicted to erotica. So
Mm.
reading gave my mind that, what I needed to satisfy my mind. And I have never shared this publicly. So all of y'all that are listening, yes, I went
Love
through,
erotica.
I went through
With it.
that. But I still felt, even after, reading the erotica and really trying to, just get myself going, I just felt guilty. I felt dirty. I felt nasty. I felt shameful.
Mm.
And so I didn't, I would always, whenever I would read or feel I needed something to take the edge off. Because most people, when they try to take the edge off, it's either sex, drugs, alcohol, or eating.
Food, yes,
And
yes,
my
yes.
and eating and food was my drug of choice, if you would, because I felt dirty with the erotica. I felt dirty with masturbation.
Got
Um,
it.
Yes.
I just felt dirty at that point. And then, as Andrea alluded to, I was so tired by the end of the day with doing all that I had to do as a caregiver. I was just like, I just want to go to bed. I
Mm.
just I
Yeah.
just want to go to bed, because even going to bed during the night, I had to keep an ear open in
Mm.
case he fell. He's fallen out the bed. He's fallen from standing. Because of his end stage renal disease, he couldn't use the cycler at night. He was going for 6 years. He was going into the dialysis center, and then the last two he was doing it from home. But because of his size, he couldn't use the cycler overnight. So 6 times a day, he had to drain himself for the dialysis 6 times a day, which meant our house looked like a medical facility. We had boxes of dialysis fluid, like they would deliver 50 boxes at a time. So one of my rooms had the boxes. My bedroom had all the syringes and the swabs and the alcohol, and he would do it in our room. So I had to see it all day long.
Mm.
So intimacy, after a time, I was just
Was
like, yeah.
yeah. Now let me ask you this. Did you ever, or would you guys have ever considered a consensual you going outside of your marriage for intimacy?
What a question, because Dr. Taylor yesterday talked about thruples. I was like, what the hell is a thruple?
I'm just curious if that would
Let
Yes.
let me and here's another thing I'm going to share that I've never shared before.
Mhm.
At a time, I had a friend that was in the military with me. He ended up moving into the city where my mother lived.
Mhm.
And because of her situation, he ended up moving into her house to kind of watch her for me. And this was a person I had dated for many, many years prior to my husband. The challenge with that was when my husband first started disconnecting, I would go to him and try to get advice from him as a man that was in my life.
Mhm.
That was a bad decision because everything that I asked him, he tried to enter and throw his shot using what I told him about my husband.
Mhm.
So mentally, for a time, I was entangled with him because he said the right things. I never had sex with him.
Mhm.
I never allowed him to touch me. But
Mhm.
mentally, I was tied up. But the problem is, I told my husband all of this.
Mhm.
I told my husband all of what was going on. And you know what my husband said to me when we went to counseling? He said, well, I thought you had already had sex with him, and I knew there was nothing I could do. He just mentally shut himself down to, I'm not gonna be a man, I'm not gonna deal with it, do what you gotta do. I never let the man touch me.
This is one of the most transparent conversations I've ever had with anyone about this. And people are falling out in the comments like,
Yeah.
you
Wow.
know, yeah, there's a whole lot of
Wow.
wows.
My
Laura says, I have been celibate for years, and after rekindling with an ex, I find myself very satisfied with just the conversation. Who knew? You're helping a lot of people.
Praise
This
God.
is why this platform exists. I needed this to be what it is right now. So we could continue to have these kinds of conversations. Monica says, wow, thank you for being so open. Alexandra says, you're not by yourself, Marguerite. Laverne says, my husband did that. Men have to learn the next level of intimacy because they're so physical. Their greatest fear is not being able to be physically satisfy their wives. Monica says, Lord, I have walked this journey with my bestie. Marguerite, I am so sorry you went through this journey alone. And but God, things happen the way they need to. Because I remember when you came into my life, I was like, okay, how can we support you? But you were managing it. You were focused in that I got to get through this. Because there was just so much going on. Cherie, is there anything else you want to ask her? We're going to go a little bit longer today. I promise you, if that's okay with both of you, because
I
this is all.
did. So I didn't technical issues. I didn't get on when you first started because there's some comments in around men's health and things like that. Did you have conversations in the beginning? Because I do believe at this age, I can't. There was a comment that I wanted to address, and I can't remember exactly what it said. I do believe at this age you do have really thorough conversations.
Yes.
I don't have to necessarily see your blood sample from Dr. Archima, but I need to know, yeah, what some of your health challenges are. And we need
Yes.
to talk about some family history. One thing that I'm inspired by is all of Tracy's people live forever. So I'm like, yes. But I've had to share with them, like both my parents died or have died early. Both of them were diabetic. Like we do need to be having these conversations at these older ages as we are dating. And I was just curious. I know you were much younger then, obviously, but what were the conversations and was it not known? And did he not take care of himself? I missed that part. So if you wouldn't mind, because I
Well,
just would be curious.
sure. When we got married, he was an insulin dependent diabetic at the time that we got married. So I knew that he had diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
And he was managing it well. In 2009, I was laid off from my job. I was laid off because my job moved to Kansas, and he worked for the city of Philadelphia and had been for more than 20 years at that time. And he was like, no, we're not moving. And I was fine because I hated my job. So I didn't work for like 3 years because I went through the grief of losing a job. While I hated the job, I went through the grief of losing the job. So I didn't work for 3 years. What I found out is during that 3 year period, instead of paying for copays to go to the doctor, he wasn't going to the doctor at all. And I didn't know it. And so I assumed because we still had insulin in the refrigerator that he was managing it well. No, he wasn't taking care of himself. He was still eating anything and everything he
Those
wanted
three
to.
years changed his life.
Those
Those
three
three
years
years. Yep.
changed his life. And when he, when we noticed that he was having the erectile dysfunction, we went to the doctor. They gave him Cialis. They gave him the blue pill. None of it worked for him. None of it worked for his body. He was not able to get an erection. They suggested that he do the vacuum, the penile vacuum.
Yes.
He was like, I'm not doing that. That is totally degrading to me. I'm
But,
not
but
doing it.
but stop for a second. So you're going through all of this. He never said he stopped going to the doctor?
He
Because
never
right,
he
right?
never said that I only found this out when he had the metabolic seizure in 2016. When he had the metabolic seizure, they told me that it likely happened because of scar tissue around his kidneys. And at that point, he had only, when they died, when he had the seizure, he only had 8% function in his kidneys. Now, he was still urinating, so I didn't know that he had a kidney problem. But between 2016, he had the metabolic seizure, he had 2 strokes, he had a heart attack, he had to have an ablation of his heart. They put in a recorder for that. He also had to get the graft for the diabetes. We lived at Lincoln, and I'm not even exaggerating. We lived at Lincoln because he felt so unworthy as a man that he did not share a lot with me until it was too late. And again, because I was being an advocate, because during that 3 years where I wasn't working, my son got diagnosed on the autism spectrum.
You just
So I was trying to advocate for my son because he was only 9 years old. So I was up at the school trying to make sure things were the way they needed to. My son has never had services. I've always been my son's service. And praise God, he's the amazing young man that he is. However, I was being everything for everybody.
Listen to this,
And
Marguerite.
running up and down. I'm an only child. So I was
Yeah.
running from Philadelphia to Virginia, back and forth, trying to take care of my mother, who asked me to keep her in her home. So I had an aide who took care of my mother. So life was lifing.
So I would be curious because I think I go, I go with Tracy to all of his doctor's appointments because I want to hear what the doctor is saying. I don't want him to come back and give me secondhand, third-hand information, get it wrong, or what have you. I think that is probably something that is helpful for me, for you to say you didn't know. It is for me to be even more diligent about.
Right. And I did that after I found out everything I found out. I went to every appointment. My husband used to call me wifey. And
Are you aware that those 3 years that he did not go is what shifted everything in your marriage?
Now,
is why he got so sick?
Now looking back, after when he started developing all that he developed in the last part of his life, I realized that part changed him. And I took it personally because I said, well, if I had just gone back to work, then
you were internalizing.
I was internalizing. I was internalizing.
Listen, Winetta says, I am walking in those shoes right now. Better or worse, once I found out he wasn't open with his health challenges. And when they're set in their ways, they would not try other options. Yes. You know how many people you're helping this morning? Are you aware of how your transparency is helping a lot of people? And there's a whole lot of wow on here. People, Cheryl says, wow, Marguerite, I'm in awe of your transparency. Thank you so much for sharing. Laverne says, thank you for this connection. Andrea, Marguerite makes me not feel alone. Laura says, thank you, Marguerite. You kept it real, and I appreciate you for that face red heart shape. Lord have mercy. Tamara says, I cannot wait to share this with my mom. Danette says, I really appreciate your transparency. Thank you. Roslyn said, it is very difficult to pleasure yourself if when you're from a little girl, you were told it's dirty to pleasure yourself or masterbate. So it couldn't feel good. Yes, because it didn't feel right. Yep.
Challenges that, that's a whole.
It's a lot. It's a whole thing, right? Tiffany says, I'm so proud of you, Marguerite. Love you even more now.
Well, I appreciate all that, and I appreciate you ladies allowing me to share, because
Mm,
I've shared little bits and pieces of my journey,
Mhm.
and but I've been more transparent
yes,
than I've ever been, because I
yes,
do realize that I'm not going through, I didn't go through all this for me. Went
mhm,
through all of I've gone through for those people who are
mhm,
behind me
yes.
that
Like the one
needed
right
to
now,
hear.
when Netta says, I'm loving this conversation. I am Marguerite in real time. She's going through
Mm,
Mm,
it right now.
mm,
mm,
mm, mm,
mm,
mm. Yeah.
mm, mm.
And hopefully that will give us, the community, all the
Yeah.
ability to be more supportive to those who are
Yes.
saying
Yes.
they're walking this journey right now.
Yes.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes. Yeah.
But them opening up to walking, the challenge
Yeah.
comes though, because as we attempt to be strong, passionate, independent women, oftentimes we just do.
Right.
And one of the things that the young lady said on the show the other day, when we make exhaustion the
Normal.
norm.
Hmm.
And for
Hmm.
me, and it's different things hit whenever, and that's why I was saying, mother, you do what most people can't for us. Let me speak for me. When listening to your show, I hear some things and I write them down, because I do a lot
Hmm.
of jotting
Hmm.
to go and in my mind process, because I was making exhaustion the norm.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And I did it for a number of years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, I am grateful for this conversation. I am very excited and celebratory for those of you who are getting answers to what you're going through. I just ask that you continue to be transparent. If you can't be transparent with your friends, your family,
Hmm.
whomever, reach out to me. Reach
Hmm.
out to me, and we can talk. I can listen. I'm a great listener.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I will sit and not give any advice or anything, but just
Right, but
listen
just
to you,
listen.
but talk to somebody.
Listen to this. Laverne says these are the conversations that even our close friends don't have. We don't talk about it. Everyone only shows the good side from the outside looking in. Jasenia says, thank you for your transparency. Laverne says, I'm currently in this season as well. It's not for the weak. Rosalind says, Marguerite, you stepped on my whole foot with so much of what you have shared was an issue for me at one point in my life. Thank you. Thank you.
And I am thankful to all
Right.
of the
Oh,
people. I don't have a big friend circle. I
mhm.
have three people in my life that really know what I was going through, because they watched it
Mhm.
open, and I thank God for them, that I could pick up the phone and be in tears in the middle of the night and just be like, I can't, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore, but I have to. Again, my son would not be able to take care of his father the way that I did. And I would not have wanted him to. I needed him to grow and strive and do life on
Yes.
his terms, and
Yes.
not have to take care of someone based on their choices.
Right.
Because although I know my husband was type 1, and I know he was probably born with it at some level because he was on insulin, what I know now,
Mhm.
but still the not taking care of it, not going to the doctor, having the quote unquote performance anxiety, not
Mhm.
being open, not sharing, always trying to be the big man on campus, and having people in his life believe he was all that and then some. I know that God has allowed me to complete that assignment, and I know that God has better and different and more wonderful things for me. So I definitely appreciate just sharing and getting this out, and allowing you all to ask me questions to get out what needs to be said,
Yes.
because most people are not going to be as transparent. But I just believed, I prayed about it, and I said, God, allow me to say what needs to be
Be
heard this
said.
morning.
Can I thank you for your transparency on this
You're
platform? Can
welcome.
I thank you for trusting us to
Yes,
have this conversation with you?
yes,
Can I
ma'am.
thank you for just being diligent in being the kind of wife that you are? Where you're, and now here people are jumping up saying, "I'm going through this in real time." right? And I believe there are way more people going through this. The transparency about the chronically ill spouse, the transparency about the intercourse, just the transparency about everything. And so now for me, I wish you on the second chance of life that you are granted someone who is, yeah, because we're all going to get sick as we age, right? But grant you someone that'll give you at least 15 good damn years when you frolic and run through the tulips and go, hey, hey, because well done, thy good and faithful servant. Well done. Right?
God.
Well done. Well done. Sharice, is there anything you'd like to add?
I want to say that too, Andrea, if you don't look like what you've been through, and the disposition, Marguerite is just one of the gentlest, graceful, most polite, thoughtful. She thinks that Tracy and I need to be in this place or in this room or at this thing or this person this, or she called, like, I would not think someone who had lived that way for that long would be that kind. Seriously. And so I personally thank you, because you called me on different issues and different things, or made sure me and Tracy, were at certain tables, and you could be bitter for sure. Yeah. But you are so kind and giving. And so, to Andrea's point, I want you to get someone that you running around the house butt naked and
making naked pancakes, baby.
Exactly. This is amazing, and you are amazing. And
thank you so much. Thank you. My mantra is this, and if you heard nothing else today, my mantra is this: if I can help somebody as I go along, if I can help somebody with a word or a song, if I can help somebody who has been traveling wrong, then my living shall not be in vain.
Girl, I need to share this with you. Laverne says she believes this diabetes has partly affected us being able to conceive as well. We have no children together. He has no children at all. When I say we must talk about these things as they happen in our communities, that we must open the doors of silence, and allow people to talk through these things. When we talk about taking care of yourself, damn it, every day, like I am now your accountability partner. I don't know if you realize it. We go back and forth, right? Because we're both in that same place and we both want to be okay. Simone says, since my husband had a silent stroke in December of 2019, Bell's palsy in 2020, and lost 10% of his hearing in 2021, kidney cancer in 2023, I go to all of his doctor's appointments with him. I thank God for the strength. Marguerite, I hear you, my sister. Winetta, who's in that space where you were, says, yes, there's a time I felt like I was tricked into this marriage, but I tried God's plan for my life. I am stronger. Women, let me tell you something. There's something magical about us women. She said, I am stronger and much wiser for the Marguerite in my life that has helped me navigate the journey of marriage, and I still love my husband unconditionally. Absolutely. You're helping people. You've helped so many people this morning. Listen, and let me tell you, to your point, Cherie, she's helping me too. I started this whole media platform. She's like, all right, mother, we're going to do this. She's always helping someone. But to what that says to me is that her core values are firmly in place. You can't fake being kind. You can't fake going through all the things that she's gone through and still show up the way that she does. You see us dancing yesterday? I said, Marguerite, I need somebody to do the bump with me. She said, come on, mother. And we went out there and we bumped. And ourselves a good time. Because
I wanted
to go. I need to reach out to you when these things are happening, because I hear them in the moment and then I just jump on it. Like the roots to table picnic. Girl, you would have had a ball.
We had a great time.
You'd have had a ball. So as we learn, we'll let you know. And I think you left me a message yesterday, Sheree. I'm going to check it because yesterday was a day, honey.
Oh, I see.
Did you? No. Did you see me run out to go get on the phone, Marguerite? Like I had to run out?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I was like, Black Jesus. So there's always something going on. But, women, and to you two sisters, thank you. Thank you for always showing up in authenticity. Thank you. Even if people don't agree with us, we have to continue to show what it is like to be ourselves.
Yes.
And to remain ourselves. Not everybody's going to like us no matter what we do. Just continue to be the best person that you can be. It's 7:43. I got to get off of this air. I love you all so much. This episode of Mornings with Mova is officially over. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders. I'll see you when I see you. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye, darlings.